Lists are usually trash. Most channels rank for clicks, not truth. Here's our attempt to do this honestly. Top 10, ranked, cited. A note on the title. Some of these items have roots slightly before the 12th century. The Song Dynasty ran from 960 to 1279, and innovations don't respect century boundaries. But the 12th century is when the Song was at its fullest reach, its commercial cities, its paper economy, its merchant fleet, its print culture. The items that changed your life came out of that specific context. Ranking them by how directly their Song Dynasty form connects to something you actually use today. From the games on your table to the navigation in your phone. Here they are. Command of. Playing cards appear to have originated in China during the Tang and early Song dynasties. Card games are mentioned in Chinese texts from as early as the 10th century, and by the Song period, paper cards with suits based on coin denominations were widespread across the empire. The specific design, suits of money, strings, tens, hundreds, doesn't look much like a modern deck of hearts and spades. Under the command of. That's because the European deck went through Islamic adaptations before reaching you. But the fundamental social technology, players holding concealed cards in hand, making bets or plays against each other with rules determined by the combination of cards, is Chinese. Poker night is Song Dynasty entertainment, filtered through 2 continents and 8 centuries. It lands at the bottom of this list because the line is long, even if it's real. Porcelain wasn't invented in the Song Dynasty. Chinese ceramic technology has deep roots. But the Song Dynasty is when the standard was set, the celadon glazes, the pure white dingware, the subtle blue greens of the Ru and Guan kilns. These became the global benchmark for fine ceramics, and European manufacturers spent centuries trying to replicate them. Meissen succeeded in the early 18th century. Everyone else was trying to reverse, engineer a Song Dynasty product. The word china as a synonym for fine dishware is linguistic evidence of how completely Song Dynasty ceramics dominated the pre-industrial luxury goods market. The cup you drink your coffee from, the plates you eat dinner on, the specific aesthetic and functional standard that defines a good dish was established in Song Dynasty kilns. It's not a 12th century invention, it's a 12th century perfection, which is a different and sometimes more consequential thing. Tea itself is far older than the Song Dynasty. Song Dynasty scholars drank it. Powdered tea whisked to a froth with hot water in a small ceramic bowl is a distinct practice from what came before, survived intact in Japan. Buddhist monks brought the Song Dynasty tea method home, where it was formalized over centuries into the tea ceremony still practiced today. More immediately, the matcha boom of the last decade is a direct export of Song Dynasty preparation. The same powdered green leaf whisked in water that Song scholars drank while reading. The ceremonial weight placed on tea. The idea that its preparation deserves specific vessels, specific gestures, specific attention, was also shaped in Song China, brig under the command of, at least for the traditions that traveled to Japan and then back to you through every matcha lat on a contemporary cafe menu. The inventor credited with ceramic movable type is by Sheng, who worked in China around the 1040s. Technically the 11th century, not the 12th. Woodblock printing is older still. What the 12th century added was scale. By the Song Dynasty's mature period, commercial printing was an industry. Bookshops in major cities sold printed texts on law, medicine, poetry, and philosophy at prices the merchant class could afford. The Confucian classics, the dynastic histories, practical manuals for farming and medicine, all circulating in print, not just in monasteries. This is about 400 years before Gutenberg drove the same transformation in Europe. The book you read, the article you scrolled past this morning, the pamphlet that starts political movements, all depend on the idea that text can be cheaply reproduced. Song Dynasty China proved it first, at industrial scale. Around the turn of the 12th century, the Song Dynasty cities of Kaifeng and later Hangzhou had something identifiably close to the modern restaurant. Commercial eating establishments with posted menus, individual tables, service for your specific party, and a curated list of dishes, according to historical accounts of the period. The variety of eating options in the larger Song cities of the 1100s resembled a modern downtown food district in their specialization. Noodle shops, dim sum houses, large banqueting establishments, late night stalls. Food delivery was documented as a common practice. What distinguishes this from a tavern or inn is the same thing that distinguishes a modern restaurant. You go there for the food, not the lodging, and you select from a menu. Every restaurant meal you've ever had traces that format to a Song Dynasty city almost 1,000 years ago. Gunpowder itself predates the Song Dynasty. It was developed by Chinese alchemists during the Tang period. Somewhere around the 9th century, what the Song contributed was systematic weaponization and ceremonial use in the same era. Fire bombs, rockets, and flame projecting weapons appeared in 12th century warfare between the Song and Jin dynasties. Simultaneously, the use of gunpowder for noise and light, the firework, became embedded in Chinese New Year and other public ceremonies. Every firework display you've ever watched, New Year's Eve, a wedding, command of, a municipal celebration, runs a piece of cultural technology that was formalized in Song Dynasty China, even if the underlying chemistry arrived earlier. The discovery of gunpowder and the invention of the firework are two different acts. The first happened in Tang Dynasty China. The second happened in Song Dynasty China, and it is still in your calendar. Su Song was a Song Dynasty statesman, astronomer, and engineer. His clock tower, completed in 1088, technically the final decade of the 11th century, was roughly 40 feet tall, water-powered, and functioned as a clock, a calendar, and an astronomical observatory simultaneously. The mechanism at its heart was a water wheel escapement, a system that converted the continuous flow of water into discrete, countable steps, advancing the wheel one tick at a time. That is the operating principle inside every mechanical clock that followed. The weight-driven tower clocks of medieval Europe, the pocket watches of the 17th century, the oscillators in your phone. Whether the European mechanical clock, Derived this escapement from Song's engineering, or arrived at it independently, is an open question among historians. What is not open? The machine was built, it worked, and it was precisely documented. 7 a.m. alarm has a possible ancestor in 1088 Kaifeng. Paper credit instruments existed in China before the 12th century. Private deposit certificates, letters of credit used by merchants. What happened in 1160 when the southern Song government issued the first Huizi was different in kind. The Huizi was government, printed, standardized in denomination, managed by a dedicated government office, and backed by a reserve of copper cash. It circulated as the routine medium of daily commerces, paying wages, collecting taxes, settling debts. This is the first government issued fiat paper currency in recorded history. The paper in your wallet, not backed by metal, issued by a state, because the state declares it worth something. Is that invention? Transmitted through centuries of monetary history, under the command of. The Huizi also experienced the world's first documented inflation spiral when the southern Song government printed more of it than the reserve could support. That outcome is in your history too. The Song Dynasty built the most capable merchant fleet in the pre-modern world. They're deep. Water trading ships had engineering features that wouldn't appear in European vessels for centuries. Command of. Watertight bulkhead compartments that contained flooding without sinking the ship. Multiple masts carrying different sail types for different wind conditions, as we'll get to at number 1. Compass navigation integrated into standard practice. The watertight bulkhead is the detail that belongs here. It is a Chinese invention documented in Song Dynasty shipbuilding. European ships didn't adopt it until the 18th century. It is standard in every vessel afloat today, from container ships to submarines. So Song Dynasty merchant routes at their peak ran to Southeast Asia, India, Arabia, and the East African coast. The modern global shipping network. The supply chain that assembled the phone in your hand owes its whole engineering, in part, to a design that was proving itself in Song Dynasty waters. Zhu Yu, a Song Dynasty government official, described compass navigation at sea in a text written around 1119. His account was specific. Ship navigators used a magnetized needle floating in water to determine south when stars were obscured by cloud. The magnetic compass had been known in China for longer, used for geomancy and land surveying. But the maritime application, clearly documented in the early 12th century, is the step that changed the world. The command of. Within 2 centuries the compass had transmitted westward through the Islamic world to Europe. Once European sailors could navigate without visible stars, open ocean voyaging became routine rather than exceptional. The Portuguese rounding of Africa, Columbus's Atlantic crossing, Magellan's circumnavigation, none of these happen at scale without a compass. The colonial era that followed, for better and for much worse, was enabled by a Chinese navigational tool documented in 1119. The GPS app on your phone is the same instrument, elevated to orbit and scaled to 1 billion simultaneous users. Pull back. The thesis was simple. The Song Dynasty was not just an early civilization doing interesting things. It was running something close to a modern economy. Fiat currency, commercial print culture, restaurant districts of global merchant shipping, and the instruments it built for that economy are still in your hands. The compass in your phone, the dish in your cabinet, the card game on your table, the fireworks in your sky, all of it traces here. If you'd rank these differently, the comments are open. Bring evidence. Until next time.